Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today I'm going to show you guys a look at the new Transformers War for Cybertron Generation Selects Deluxe Class Hubcap. This is Selects number 13, and Hubcap, for anyone that doesn't know, is a new head retool of the Earthrise Cliffjumper toy. This is the first release of the Generation 1 Hubcap character since, well, the original, as far as I can tell. Technically there was Machine Wars Hubcap, but verdict's still out over whether or not that's the same guy, because tech specs don't really line up, but I don't know. That's a story for another time. Ooh, I should make a Machine Wars video. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you like a video on Machine Wars? I always found it very interesting. Let me know in the comments section. So, if you guys seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Hubcap's packaging, which is, pretty minimal. We'll open it up, we'll see what's inside, we'll take a look at his instructions, and then we'll see Hubcap himself in both his vehicle and robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing comparisons with the Earthrise Cliffjumper toy, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Hubcap, he comes in your standard deluxe size Generation Selects packaging. It's a little mailer box style, just plain cardboard. Got that cool, like, graffitied Autobot symbol with the Autobot text, War for Cybertron logo. Up front, you have the label that calls out the character's class, name, and his selects number, which is cool. Logo there. This just continues the Autobot picture, logo, legal stuff, and nothing. So, again, these boxes, they're not for show. They're more function over form, but it's fine. Okay, now that I've cut the label here, let's open this up. And you got your standard inner print on the packaging. And then here we have Hubcap in his robot mode, armed with his weapons here. The same weapons that came with Cliffjumper. Behind it, you have his instruction sheet. Get a look at that. You can see it's got a picture of him here on the front, his name in English and Autobot. Swing everything open. This shows you how to configure his weapons and his backpack slash shield accessory, and then the transformation from robot to vehicle mode. Shows you where to store his accessories in the vehicle mode, and how to do his special little sled mode thing that he has. Well, really Cliffjumper's sled mode from the cartoon, but since they're the same toy, now this guy can do it too. So, yeah, pretty cool. If you already have Cliffjumper, you know what to expect here. Alright, let's break him out. Right now, here we get a look at Hubcap in his vehicle mode. And just like his mold-made Cliffjumper, he is intended to be some sort of approximation of a real-life Porsche from the 1980s. This time, obviously done up in a very bright yellow color. And he's done up as a mix between painted yellow parts and then like actual yellow plastic. And there's a fairly noticeable difference in the sheen between the two. The yellow plastic is a lot shinier than the paint. The paint's a little more matte colored, kind of like Cliffjumper's. But it's not too terribly noticeable in bright light conditions, so that's good. My copy doesn't want to really perfectly tab in all the way. Might just be the way I have it. No, I don't seem to have that issue with Cliffjumper, so I don't know if it's just me or what it is. But overall, it looks very nice. Kind of panely, but it's a Transformer. What do you expect? He has the Autobot symbol over here on the left side of his hood, or right side, depending on your perspective, rather than right here on the front, right in the middle. So that sets him apart a bit. Kind of reminds me of the old Bumblebee toy, where he has it like on his foot. And he just looks pretty nice. Pretty minimal kibble here, except for the exposed hands. But they're kind of needed to grasp those little parts there, so it's kind of forgivable. And he rolls very, very well, so that's nice. And he does retain the painted rims, which is another plus. Now if we pull out old Cliffjumper here, you can see pretty much a one-for-one color swap, right? Cliffjumper's clear blue is replaced with this like dark, smoky, clear plastic. Black paint and plastic seem to be more or less the same. Might be a little bit darker on Hubcap over here. The yellows the reds are obviously trade out for yellows. And then most of Cliff Jumper's silver paint, except for the rims, has been replaced with just a very dark gray color. But at least he has all the same paint apps, you know, it's didn't lose anything. And then, like I said, the Autobot symbol's just been shrunk down a bit and moved over here. But they look nice. They look like two cars that, you know, you'd see sitting side by side at a dealership back in the year 1984, or, you know, somewhere around there. Of course, his weapons can be mounted in this mode, and this is the default configuration for that. Just kind of like a super combined bazooka weapon. Just plug it into the top, right above his rear windshield. Nice and straight. And we'll plug Cliff's in too, for uniformity's sake. Okay, that's how these two compare. And you can see, instead of the nice silver paint, he ends up doing the same like matte dark gray that you see on the body of the car. Can't say I'm a fan of that approach. I think the silver looks way, way better. But this does make the weapon look more like a military grade weapon. Because if you look at those, you know, they're usually painted up in a very matte gray or like dark green color. So I guess it works in that regard, though it just clashes a lot more with the bright yellow colors. If anything, they might do better to swap their weapon colors, since Cliff is noticeably darker. But, you know, either way, it looks alright. Looks pretty good. Now, like Cliff Jumper, this guy can assume that sledded mode. So if you want to do that, it's very simple. Take that off. Break everything down into its component parts. I'll plug that pretty tight on this copy. Alright. So for this black thing here, oh, it does have some paint on the underside. Look at that. You just open it up, flip them upside down, and you're going to plug it in. Take this 5mm post, put it right there, and then these little tiny posts are going to go in these holes between the big yellow post and the fists. In fact, I'd probably do that part first because it's probably the harder one to get. Oh, it doesn't reach very well. There you go. Get in there, lay it nice and flat. It's not obstructing much. Then the little boosters, you want to lay them down, and you want them to where they both have the open barrel facing backwards, so they look right as little boosters. So you want it like this, and that. And then lastly, the little skis are going to go, they're going to plug in right here, and you want them to where this part is facing the inside. Just get them in there. Should stay in nicely if your tolerances are where they should be. There you go. There's a little rocket sled mode that not Hubcap, but Cliff Jumper actually took on in the cartoon. But since they share a body type and weaponry, there's no reason to think he couldn't do it too. Here's Cliff again, so you can compare. And again, I really think the silver just works so much better for this whole setup. This makes him, I don't know, he looks much more cartoon colored than realistically colored, which, you know, for some people that'd be a plus. For me, I like kind of a blend of aesthetics. I don't really like the cell shaded look on these. Okay, now this is Hubcap in his robot mode. If you do want to see the transformation from vehicle to robot, make sure to check out my Cliff Jumper review for that, since these guys are essentially the same mold. I didn't feel like it was necessary to do it twice. I'll redo it when Bumblebee comes out, because he's got some pretty heavy retooling, so it may actually affect things in some way. Possibly, I'm not sure. So, you know, this robot mode, it's a really good combination of the classic toy design as well as, you know, some of his more comic-based appearances. You know, his head detail is obviously a lot more intricate than the original G1 toys. Now, I find the head design to be very weird for this body. It looks like it should belong to a much bigger Transformer. And I don't know if it's that the head itself is big, or if it's just the, I guess, more mature, squared off look to it. It looks weird on a character with like these short, stubby little limbs. Like, it even works for the chest size, but, you know, if this were a guy that had like bigger arms and legs, I could see it working better. Kind of looks like tracks, if tracks had like a stunted growth, something, I don't know. It just looks weird to me, but not bad. It's actually a very, very nice head sculpt. I think it's weird the way they colored him because he's got an orange face and then just like slightly darker orange eyes. So they don't photograph well from a distance. I mean, you got to get him pretty close up just to really make his eyes out.
Yeah.
Yep. But the helmet's really nice. The sculpted features on the face are nice and chiseled, so I dig it. The one thing I don't like about it, and it's kind of, they should have a cliff jumper too. So he's got his Autobot symbol. You can see it on his foot, which I think is a silly place to, you know, put your allegiance, you know, like, where do you wear this on your uniform? Well, my boot. Oh, that's weird. So it's an odd place. Now, it is better than Cliff because, as you can see, Cliff Jumper has no visible Autobot symbol in his robot mode. It's completely tucked away because it goes on the car hood panel that folds up like under his chest here. Now, I don't know why these decisions were made because on the original toys for Cliff Jumper, for Hubcap, even for Bumblebee, the Autobot symbol, whether it was just a symbol or a rub sign, is on the hood of the car or on the robot chest, which looks a lot better in robot mode. The only reason I can think of for the change is that maybe they just thought it looked less realistic in the vehicle mode to have that up there. And like in Cliff Jumper's case, you know, the placement looks really nice if you're trying to say this is a real vehicle. I get it. I get why that symbol would be there as opposed to on the roof of the car. But, you know, that does leave him as a factionless robot, which is kind of backwards when you think about it, right? The robot's in disguise, but the only way you can tell his allegiance is when he's in vehicle mode. To me, I think they should have just left it here. And in Hubcap's case, I think it looks even sillier. It's an odd placement for the vehicle mode, and it's an odd placement for the robot mode. I think I would have preferred if they just kept it in the same place that Cliff Jumper had it, so it just didn't look weird and out of place. But it's a minor nitpick. I mean, it doesn't affect the quality of the toy itself. It's just a strange deco choice, in my opinion. So yeah, maybe personally, it should just be right here, but oh well. As you can see, he is wielding his weapon in its like combined bazooka-like configuration, which is kind of the default. And again, the dark gray just looks weird to me. It looks really weird. Probably more realistic, but weird looking. Just like Cliff, if you want, you can remove his backpack and then have him wield it like a shield. Just plug it into his other hand here, like that, and he can defend himself. It just gives him a much more hollow back, which is the trade-off there. Personally, I think I prefer the backpack remaining on. I think it just works out a little better. But, you know, you do you. And then, of course, there's the alternate weapon configuration, which looks like this. So you can have him dual wielding some smaller guns, and then he gets kind of like a shoulder-mounted something or other. I guess it's supposed to be a gun of some kind. I don't know. I didn't really say. And, I mean, you can just do all sorts of stuff. He's got tons of little pieces, which is kind of, it's how they justify the $20 price point for such small toys. And I talked about that kind of ad nauseum during the Cliff Jumper review, you know, whether or not I think this is $20 worth of figure. It's a tough one, right? It's much more complex than the mini-bots of old. You know, it has all the complexities, more or less, of a deluxe class figure. It's just very small. And then, of course, the way they trade it off is by giving them a whole bunch of accessories. Not my favorite approach. Even if you throw all the plastic together and you can justify that it's $20 worth of plastic, maybe it still just doesn't feel right. You know, in today's market, I'd be happier paying like $15 for this. You know, make it a Deluxe Junior. I think that's the problem that Hasbro creates for itself, creating these very rigid size classes. You know, maybe if you're gonna have size classes, maybe just have some more. You know, have more of a gradient than these big steps up. You know, between the different classes. But that's just me. You know, Hasbro's not gonna change their mind. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. So, yeah, you know, overall, what do I think of this guy? I mean, he's pretty ugly. Kind of like I think his colors are just kind of like, they kind of burn your eyes. Very, very bright yellow and then orange face. It's not a pretty color scheme. And again, I think his head like looks too big for his body. but it's what he's supposed to be, right? I mean, this is Hubcap, and this is what a modern take on Hubcap would look like. So you can't hate on it, right? He does everything right. Cliff jumper body, Hubcap head. He's yellow with an orange face. That's how he's supposed to look, you know? It'd be like hating on the dreads from Dark of the Moon for being ugly. Like, they're supposed to be. So you're if you're going into that with that mindset, there's no problem with it. If you're just looking to pick up a version of this mold, and you only want one, I'd probably stick with either Cliffjumper or Bumblebee, because he ain't pretty. He is an ugly little sucker. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. I don't know. I think he's weird looking. Naturally, all the same strengths and weaknesses of the Cliffjumper base mold apply here. His articulation, all that, are really great. Not a huge fan of the parts forming, and I know that's a debate that's been done to death on the forum, so I'm not really gonna focus too much on it. I would always prefer if you can go from vehicle to robot mode without the parts forming, but this isn't that bad, right? I mean, I'd say RC is probably a worse offender, who I still don't have yet, by the way. Just want to point out that other people are getting theirs from Amazon, and mine still hasn't shipped. So there's a conspiracy here. Somebody doesn't want me to have these new toys. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. All right, let me take off my tinfoil hat there. All right. So, yeah, I think he's a worthy buy for any serious Transformers collector, because this is the first time since G1 that you get a proper original Hubcap character as a figure. If you're more casual toy buyer and you just appreciate the design, I don't know. I think this is probably the worst version of the design. He was just kind of the obligatory cameo because the mold's already there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is recommended with an asterisk. Recommended if you're a collector. Of course, that's just how I feel about this toy. At the end of the day, what really matters though is what you guys think of Hubcap. Do you see yourselves picking him up? Are you willing to buy him if you already have Cliffjumper? Do you hate the colors as much as I do, or am I just being really nitpicky there? I don't know. Again, not really holding it against the toy. He's supposed to look that way. But I just think, ugh. He's like a walking traffic sign. Any and all thoughts, as always, are welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this look at the new Generation Selects Hubcap. And with all that said, I will see you next time.